So here's the Tactica question. Confirmed. New edition of 40K. Still figuring out what that means. Still waiting, as of this vlog, for a confirmed street date. I mean, there'll be leaks. We'll get an idea of what's going on. But eventually, there is going to be that shift. The old rules are going to turn off. The new rules are going to turn on. And whenever this happens in any edition of 40K, some of you out there playing, listening, you're brand new to 40K. Maybe this was the first edition that you've experienced. So you're like, what does this mean for me? How is this going to change things, right? So it might be a little unsettling. For those of you who have been playing a while, maybe since 4th edition, you're like, here we go again. But there is what I term, and we're looking tactically, we're asking the question, how can we start winning immediately? How can we cut down that learning curve, that new edition learning curve, position ourselves so we're top tier at the gaming club or the gaming group? And that's not even from the perspective of a competitive player. You can be a narrative player. Whatever type of 40K player you are, how can we dominate all the way out? That's the focus of this vlog and the next couple of vlogs, because I've been through a couple of edition changes, and there are some markers that we can look for. There are some markers that we can consider to push that out. The first thing is there's an unlock period. Everything has been reset. And what that reset means, there are fundamental shifts in the rules. So essentially right now, and I am simplifying things a little bit, and I'm leaving a couple of things out. 40K is just essentially wound counters right now. The difference between tanks, vehicles, infantry, the different individual units, they're just wound counters. I can calculate it all on a spreadsheet. If the rules, which it looks like, if the rules shift to where they are subsets, slightly different rules for vehicles, slightly different rules for flyers, maybe slightly different rules for the reemergence of independent characters. What that means is now you have to relearn your army. Everyone has to relearn their army. The playing field has been reset regardless of the army that you play. So the narrative player, the competitive player, the power gamer, the beardy player, the casual, whatever, the young blood, everyone's on the same page. So we want to come up with a tactica. We want to come up with a tactica to position ourselves. How we do this is you've spent a whole edition playing your army, learning your army, and that army might be a couple of months old because you just joined us. That it could be years in the making. It could be an army like my Samhan Warhost that I have been playing more or less the same units since 2007. I know it's not tactically the best army out there because it's a very, very themed and narrative army. But in terms of my ability to play, that's the army I know the most because I'm on autopilot. I've been playing it for so long. What we have to do is step back, reboot everything. And how we do that is I find it physically to take out the models, your current army list, currently what you're playing. That's what we're going to jump into the new edition with. You might have tons and tons of models on your shelf that you could pull in and build different armies. Let's go with what you've been playing. Physically lay those models out. I'm visual. I do that. And write down the core mechanics, the core rules. So you're going to look in the army books, write down the core rules. This is how jet bikes work now. This is how infantry work. This is how grav tanks work. This is how air support works. And from that perspective, look at each individual unit just on the rules level, just entirely on the rules level, and begin to see how they fit together with the rules, just with what you're playing. What we want to do is focus on something we understand and focus on that bite-sized piece as opposed to pulling in all different models and throwing different stuff down on the table. Approaching it from that perspective as if it is a brand new army. That's going to be the biggest challenge because there are going to be players that try to play their current army with the new rule set without that readjustment. And they might be somewhat successful, but the Army is not going to work in the same way. The tactical advantages are not going to be there in the same way, but they're going to try and sledgehammer it through. Eventually, 8, 10, 15 games, they're going to naturally adapt and understand the rules. We want to do that game 1 or game 0. Take out the units, write down the rules, isolate, focus, figure out how they work, and that positions us moving in.